Do you want to hear something absolutely insane? There is an ancient technique that's at least 5,000, maybe 10 or 20,000 years old, that modern society is pretty much buried and forgotten about, that won't just help you stop drinking alcohol, but it will help you stop drinking alcohol and forget about it. As in, it will become an afterthought, something that was just in the past. Imagine that. Imagine just walking through life like alcohol was never a thing. Well, this ancient technique isn't just going to help you stop drinking alcohol, because this ancient technique has been used to shape society. It's been used to shape things like justice, like morals, like God. It's one of the deepest things that you can actually do. And if you apply this ancient technique to stopping drinking alcohol, your life is never going to look the same again. And I'm almost 100% sure that you will have never heard about this, especially if you were born after the 1950s. A quick introduction. My name is Leon Sylvester. I'm the founder of soberclear.com. I struggled with alcohol for around about 10 years, binge drinking, daily drinking, going to AA meetings, begging God to help me, nothing worked. But for the past 7 years, I haven't touched a drop of alcohol, and really in this video, I'm going to share my secret with you. I'm going to show you how I've stopped drinking myself and helped tens of thousands to do it as well. So what is this ancient technique? Well, the word for it is contemplation, but don't just skip off the video now, because you might have heard of this before, but I can almost guarantee you've never properly applied it. So why is this the lost technique? Why am I talking about this? Well, our modern society, especially in the Western world, has an addiction. It has an addiction to two things: action and distraction. We're either taking action to build success, to build our finances, to build our career, to build our families. We're either doing things and forward projecting, which isn't a bad thing, or for most of us, we're either doing this action stuff or we're distracting ourselves, be it through Netflix, through mobile phones, through alcohol, through drugs, through sex. It can be anything. We just live in this constant state of action and distraction. But what if I told you that a few thousand years ago, this just wasn't a thing? In our modern world, people are held in high regard that take a lot of action. And why not? It's always been like that. But what the ancient Romans did differently is they valued something else. They valued something called leisure time. Leisure is not action and distraction. It's time to contemplate the big ideas, to contemplate things like God, like justice, like morals. It's to sit and sustain your thought on one thing and not distract yourself. It's to face the hard things in life. For an ancient Roman, that was the best way you could live your life. That was the ideal. They didn't want to just do business and attack all the time. They actually wanted to remove themselves from business so they can do this contemplation, this leisure. Even Seneca, an ancient Roman politician and philosopher called Seneca, wrote a letter to a grain merchant, and this letter was called On the Shortness of Life. And he really talks about how most people just squander their time, going to a barber and complaining about every hair, or they just bury themselves in work. And I think this letter is over 2,000 years old. It's around that mark. But what Seneca did is he wrote to this grain merchant and said, your mind, your life was meant for so much more than just busying yourself and managing the stress of all of Rome having to get this grain. And he said that life is short. And he really encouraged this man. He wasn't a grain merchant. He was a man that managed all of the grain supply in ancient Rome. And he just encouraged him to just say goodbye to it all. Stop chasing this material success. He said in the letter that Augustus, one of the great Roman emperors, all he ever did was want a break. He just always complained and wanted a vacation. And he said this time and time again. Those people that chase success often get there and then all they do is want to break. They want to go and experience leisure. And he was encouraging this man to do something similar. And what's happened now is with capitalism and modern society and how all of these social media platforms are just designed to get you hooked and addicted, we have buried this ancient skill. So what exactly is contemplation? Well, it's the ability to sit in silence and contemplate one specific topic or idea for a prolonged period of time. You're not reading, you're not studying, you're not watching YouTube videos, you're sat there with your own thoughts. You are simply thinking deeply. In fact, some people argue not to take notes. Socrates never wrote anything down. But what happens is you start getting questions. If you contemplate the idea of stopping drinking alcohol or just alcohol in general and how it impacts your life, you're very likely to just be filled with more questions. But you know what those questions do? Is they lead to breakthroughs. This is how people achieve enlightenment. They contemplate this idea of what am I or who am I? And I promise you one thing, if you can contemplate the role that alcohol has in your life, you won't need to read any stop drinking books or read any scientific literature or even listen to my YouTube videos. You can probably stop watching them because you will come to the same conclusion that I have come to. Because I have actually contemplated this topic for thousands of hours. But the difference in my life is that I was forced into contemplation. Let me explain. See, what happened in my life is I was a heavy drinker. I would binge drink. And some of the hangovers that I experienced after a bad binge were disastrous. And what ended up happening is I couldn't take action because I was so hungover. And eventually, after eating a bunch of junk food and watching a bunch of TV and messing around on my phone, eventually I get to a place where I didn't even want to distract myself. And I might go for a bath or something like that, or just lie around, and then I would be forced to contemplate. I'd be forced to contemplate the disgusting hangover. I'd be forced to contemplate how bad I feel, how much money I wasted the night before, and I always came to the same conclusion. Alcohol is not helping. And because I couldn't take action or be distracted, I was just forced to sit there and ask myself, what the is alcohol doing for me in my life? And I spent multiple hundreds of hours doing this before I stopped drinking alcohol, and I've spent way over 1,000 hours, multiple thousands of hours doing this after I quit drinking. See, for my videos, I don't really listen to anybody talk about alcohol. I don't watch any stop drinking material. I don't read any stop drinking books. Sure, I read them at the beginning of my journey, but then I realized I don't need to read this stuff. A lot of the videos I've made on this channel are just off the top of the dome. I literally just write a few bullet points of my own thinking on this topic and just press record. Now, don't get me wrong, occasionally I do need to do research. I need to read science because that's what people want to hear about. But when it comes to my understanding of alcohol and what it is, the science doesn't really influence me either way. I've done my own thinking. I don't need to really go and learn anymore because I am so sure that alcohol adds nothing to my life that why do I need anything else? I've come to my own conclusion. So why do I say you don't need books, you don't need to study, you don't need to do anything? Because it's obvious. If you sit and truly think about alcohol and contemplate this topic for a prolonged period of time, and alcohol has had a negative impact on you and your life, then you will come to the same conclusion. You will see alcohol for what it is. Because what is it? A poison, a carcinogen, it's ethanol, and it destroys pretty much every cell it comes into contact with. But when you realize this for yourself, then guess what happens? Not drinking alcohol becomes a logical decision. You don't want to control it, you just don't want it, which is true control. External voices can play a role in triggering this for you, but nothing will beat contemplation. Even people that go through my stop drinking program, and I'll explain the ins and outs of that in a minute so you can kind of apply the same mental model. But even people that go through it, I show them a new way of thinking. I show them what alcohol is, but I can't make any decisions for them. I just force people to contemplate the ideas that I've already discovered through my own contemplation to get the same conclusion. So how do we do this? Well, the ultimate way to do this is we use first principles thinking. We break the problem down into its component parts, and you do this through contemplation. When you start thinking about alcohol and the role that it has in your life, questions start popping up. For example, well, hang on, how did I get hooked on this? How is it portrayed in the media? How is it marketed to me? When these ideas start coming into your mind, these are the topics that you break down into their component parts. And you really start to realize that we've all been manipulated to see alcohol a certain way. It's one of the most addictive drugs known to man, but essentially you do first principles thinking through your own contemplation, and then you can then start to study these individual component parts, or you can just contemplate them further. Some people do need additional research, but once you've done that base foundation of research, that's it. You don't need any more. Now, you can do this alone. It might take 50, 100, maybe 1,000 hours. If you're unfortunate like me, you're often forced to do this. Actually, looking back, it's probably more fortunate rather than for it to drag on my entire life. Maybe it was a blessing in disguise. But you can do this on your own. The quicker way to do it is to go through my program, is to go through the contemplation that I've already gone through, where I started to just see alcohol entirely for what it is, and that will force you to do your own contemplation. If you want information on that, then you can just go ahead and click the link in the description. You can actually apply to join the program, where we'll jump on a free call to see if the program is a good match for you. We typically work for business owners and professionals who are motivated to change. If you want to see if that's a good fit, go ahead and apply by clicking the link down below, then booking a free call, or you can go to soberclear.com to read a bit more about the work that we do. But I promise you, this is the lost skill. It's shaped civilizations, and it can reshape the way that you view alcohol forever. And once you've done this, you won't need me. You won't need any stop drinking books. You won't need any of these scientific things, whatever. You won't need anything. You'll rely on your own understanding of this drug. And if you click the video on the screen now, I'm going to show you some of the warning signs that might force you into a state of contemplation. So definitely check this one out next.